Tonight on Prime Business, Ghana's tourism sector receives $10 million World Bank grant to support and build the capacity of operators in the hospitality and tourism space.
This direction that the government through the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture is in this year supporting SMEs in the tourism, hospitality and creative arts sector with a grant of $10 million United States dollars.
All these and more coming shortly, but we begin with commodities. Tonight, an amount of $10 million has been allocated to the Ghana Tourism Development Project. The aim of the grant is to support and build the capacity of operators in the hospitality and tourism sector. We have more in this report.
About 1,500 small and medium enterprises, with 60% being women in the tourism value chain, will benefit from the Tourism SME Grant. The fund is a grant scheme facility under the World Bank project at the Tourism Ministry, which is geared towards improving the overall performance of the tourism industry. Delivering the keynote address at the launch of the grant, President Nana Akufo-Addo said the move is to provide an additional boost to transform the sector into a strong tool for economic development.
The development of entrepreneurship has the potential to contribute to specific development objectives, such as the employment of women and the youth. It is in this direction that the government through the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture is in this year supporting SMEs in the tourism, hospitality and creative arts sector with a grant of $10 million United States dollars to enhance and expand their businesses. The grants will assist operators in the sector modernize and improve tourist sites, restaurants, tour operations, event organization, and related businesses to become attractive and competitive.
World Bank Country Director to Ghana, Pierre Laporte, expressed the bank's readiness to support Ghana, but urged stakeholders in the tourism sector to reciprocate the gesture by ensuring the success of the project.
We at the World Bank, we believe that it is a perfect blend between developing public sites and the right capital injection into the private sector SMEs, backed by adequate marketing drive traffic to Ghana, that will result in the ultimate growth of the tourism sector in the country. In this period of global economic crisis, it is the right time to take calculated and strategic steps to review and grow our economies. Indeed, it is the time for development partners to show good faith with struggling economies. The World Bank Group stands resolute and prepared to go the long haul with countries like Ghana, and I urge players within the tourism value chain to reciprocate this gesture from the bank toward the tourism development project by ensuring demonstrable results at the end of the day. This will be the only motivating factor that will keep the project going.
The event was under the theme Empowering SMEs for Sustainable Tourism Development.
Meanwhile, President Akufo-Addo says that he is committed to ensuring all railway projects are completed successfully to ease pressure on road networks. According to the president, availability of a good railway network will support the economic integration of the West African sub-region, as well as boost commercial activity. The president was speaking at a sword-cutting ceremony for the construction of the 78-kilometer railway line from Manso to Huni Valley as part of the Western Rail Line project. Here's more.
Parliament in 2020 approved the loan agreement of €500 million for the project, which stretches from Manso to Huni Valley as part of the Western Railway project. This falls in line with the Railway Master Plan endorsed by President Akufo-Addo to ensure modern railways across the country. Speaking at the sword-cutting ceremony, President Akufo-Addo assured the resources will be made available for all expansion projects in the sector.
Government is committed to securing additional resources to complete the expansion of the new standard gauge rail network in the country, in line with the Railway Master Plan. The development of the Manso-Huni Valley section of the railway line, of the Western Line, is to be constructed at a cost of €500 million, the highest single investment for rail development since our nation gained independence.
Minister for Railways Development, John Peter Mewu, hinted that the Western Line has the potential of enhancing the export of mineral resources, which will ensure some foreign exchange earnings for the country.
The project, when successfully completed, will link the expanded Takoradi port to a more efficient standard gauge railway line for the effective transportations of cargo as well as passengers. Other economic benefits of the projects, which I think most of you all are aware already, include the reductions of pressure on our road network, thereby reducing the early deteriorations and hence increasing the lifespan of the road. The transportations of freight, including minerals and bulk commodities along the Western Corridor, is predominantly by means of road network due to the state of the railway currently. Currently, only a small proportion of the manganese from Unsuta mine is transported by rail to the port of Takoradi. The Western Line has a very huge potential in terms of haulage of both liquid and bulk cargo materials.
Western Regional Minister Otrida Kumensa called on contractors to use local artisans for the project in order to increase local employment.
All that I want to ask of the contractor is that don't import workers. We have enough workers in the Bohol district. We have enough workers in the Takwai Swahili district. We have enough workers in the Sekedi Takrade district to do this work all the way to Prisia Huni Valley. So please, Amandi, we know that you have the skills and the capacity to deliver a good job. You've done it before. And we know that you heed to this advice so that the people here, especially Manson, and the Takwai Swahili and Prisia Huni Valley, will feel this project being done on their soil.
The port of Takoradi will witness another boost in commercial activities through the operations of railways.
A Deputy Minister of Trade and Industry, Herbert Krapa, has stated that government will work with productive economic sectors to rebuild the economy following the effects of COVID. He has said that the government's National Revitalization Initiative will diversify the economy, strengthen the industrial sector and increase employment. He was speaking at the Ghana Export Promotion Authority School maiden graduation.
The objective of the Ghana Export Promotion Authority Export School is to support the Ghanaian exporter community to acquire proper export managerial and technical skills. It is to build trade capacity to enable global competitiveness. The maiden congregation ceremony had 19 students graduating from the school. Speaking at the ceremony, Deputy Trade and Industry Minister Herbert Krapa maintained that government will build and expand human capital for industrial export development and marketing.
For our young graduates, I think the message is simple. You are graduating at a time when engaging the productive sectors of our economy could not be any more relevant. Government is mindful of engaging the productive sectors of the economy, and we continue to roll out programs that allow us to be able to do that. The National Industrial Revitalization Program that we roll out is supposed to provide support to viable but ailing institutions and firms that have a potential to rebuild. Today, if we're able to come out of the ravages of the pandemic and conflict, we have to be able to build industry that allows us to engage the productive sectors of our economy.
Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Export Promotion Authority, Dr. Ifwa Asabia Asari, said capacity development is key to the growth of the sector.
To attain a projected revenue of at least 25.3 billion by the year 2029. You may be wondering how all this information relates to today's program. The success of this national strategy, which is seen as a channel for Ghana's economic breakthrough, hinges on three strategic pillars. The first is to expand and diversify the supply base for value-added industrial export products and services. The expected outcome of this is an expanded and diversified supply base for value-added industrial exports. The second pillar is to improve the business regulatory environment for export in a bid to reduce time and cost of regulatory compliance, resulting in a competitive export environment. The third and final pillar, which this program is based on, is to build and expand the required human capital for industrial export development and marketing.
The GEPA Export School was established in 1987 to support the Ghanaian economy.
Now, government may have to put on hold some social intervention programs to make good use of the IMF economic bailout program. Now, Bloomberg's latest reporting is that Ghana may seek as much as $1.5 billion from the IMF to shore up our finances and win back access to the global market. Of course, Ayitey spoke on this earlier on the marketplace.
We can see that there are some specific indicators that have gone, or let's say, worse. And so government or the engagement may take longer, right, because the process is that the longer you take to subscribe onto the program, the worse your situation will be. And if your situation is a bit difficult, you will take longer in the process of signing.
So Bloomberg's latest reporting is that Ghana may seek as much as $1.5 billion from the IMF. I remember that the information minister talked about $3 billion. And so I don't know whether the government is lowering its expectations, but is $1.5 billion enough?
Looking at where we find ourselves, I think you need a fund program for a short-term measure. Mm-hmm. If you look at historically, we go for Eurobond to support our budget. And the Eurobond has ranged between 1.5 to 2 billion. So a fund program will give you a short-term budgetary support. But as to whether that's enough will depend on the conditionalities that are tied to, because part of the conditionalities will require that we cut down on expenditure. So if you're going to cut down on some specific expenditure and maybe suspend or put on hold some social intervention programs that is putting a strain on government budget, then I think the 1.5 will be enough. Mm-hmm. If we're still going to continue our usual expenditure, which I don't think the fund will allow for all of them, then I think it may not be sufficient. But if we cut down on some expenditure, it will be sufficient.
Meanwhile, Ghana has targeted a bailout program worth $3 billion for swift macroeconomic stability. But how did Ghana get here, and what's at stake for the 17th IMF program? Here's more.
2 days into government's resolve to seek an IMF bailout, and many wonder, how did we get here?
Even if they go for the money, they will come and then embezzle it, and then they'll be spending our money. Wow. It is unnecessary.
There's no way we can survive without IMF, because over some years now, I think most governments have been to IMF about 16 times, as I can remember. If we go to IMF, I think IMF can regulate the government.
Seth Tekpe is former finance minister who had sounded the alarm for an immediate IMF program months before government announcement.
If we don't go to the IMF now, right, I have more questions. Are we able to weather the Ukraine war for as long as it takes? The G7 just met, right, and they are saying they are in for the long haul, which means that, quote, what they are saying is that we expect this to extend maybe to the end of the year or the rest. Are we able, to weather with our current condition, the inflationary things, the adjustments which the global central banks are doing, and now we are doing syndicated loans. Even if we were in the markets ordinarily, we would be borrowing at rates that now account which are going to be higher because of the global interest rate. So I'm saying that's another factor we need to consider, right? Given our current situation, are we able to, to harbor this? If crude oil prices continue to grow, if grains don't come, for wheat to go to, our two major wheat producers, bread and the rest. Those are the factors we should be talking about when we talk, about this. And I'm saying that where is the pride? Didn't we go back to the IMF for COVID loan? If we were that solid, why didn't we stomach it ourselves?
Ghana's net international reserves has declined to $4.6 billion in April 2022. That's from $6.9 billion in January 2022. This has impacted the foreign exchange market, as some multinational firms that have declared dividends so far are also expected to repatriate the funds to the investors. This, among many other severe economic challenges, mounted pressure on government to seek IMF assistance. Kojo Opon Nkrumah is Minister of Information.
This is the appropriate time that you will take a decision like this. Let's go back. 2017, 2018, 2019, there was no basis to take a decision to go to the fund for a balance of payment supported program.
But the same COVID you're raising, it came up in 2020.
I'm saying 2017, 2018, 2019, there was no such thing. 2020, as I've explained, our economy was badly hit. 2021, we actually took money from the fund. I hope people have not forgotten. We actually took about $1 billion from the fund to support our COVID response program. But that was not a balance of payment program. Now, as we're entering 2022, in November 2021, we put an economic program before the Republic, went to Parliament and sought to get that program approved, and then upon its approval, implemented. Take some of our revenue measures. Where ordinarily you would expect revenue measures to pass, let's say in November, December, so that by the 1st of January, implementation starts, and then you can build the revenues and the buffers that you are looking to deal with, for example, my brother's national service allowance, or the cost of living allowance as my colleagues are asking for.
In all of this, Ghanaians are concerned about the impact of any conditionality on their cost and standard of living.
When they came, they didn't suffer. So as they saw the money, they were just spending the money left and right.
I've been expecting this from this very government quite long ago. Ever since we realized the economy was going down, we were expecting this, but I didn't know why the present government was talking about e-levy. We are welcoming it. So the only thing we can tell the government is that they should return our e-levy for us and cancel the e-levy with immediate effect, since they are going for the IMF.
Well, I think in many ways it's good, but per their own manifesto and per their own utterances, they let us know that we are capable of managing our own affairs, and we are much we have the strength to do our own things. But right now, going back to IMF seems like we are now weak to the extent that we can't even do things which will benefit us anymore, unless we call for foreign aid before they can come and support us. That means we are still incompetent, as they use the same word to the previous president.
Ghana's umbrella business community, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, though agrees with the intent for an IMF bailout, criticizes the government for its poor debt management. Clement Osamuako is president of the chamber.
As we speak now, we cannot generate money from within. There is no way. And you can just check from the way the e-levy went on. As we speak now, we're getting about 10% of the total revenue that they were expecting the country to get. The 90 is not coming from within. And so there's no alternative than to seek the redress of the IMF. But what I want to say is that when we are able to get their support, we have to look within and see where we can still make some gains. Honestly, businesses are hurting and everybody is complaining. Now we can see that inflation has moved up high. We also see that the prime rate has also moved up to now. Exchange rate keeps on being above 8 point something. If you allow the economy to go as it is, I'm afraid businesses cannot be sustained. We need foreign currency to import. We need good interest rate to borrow money to expand our business and create jobs. In the absence of we not getting that money, and the government is also borrowing alongside with us to crowd out the private markets, then what we foresee, if you don't go for the bailout, will be very difficult. And I think that let's go in for the bailout and see what we can do within to support what it is. If that is done, it will bring the confidence back into the economy.
Yes, seeking IMF assistance will bolster investor confidence, but the Association of Ghana Industries AGI wants the government to put forward a decisive homegrown policy ahead of negotiations with staff of the fund.
In recent months, we could all tell that, things have not been that smooth. We've had the cedi depreciating at a fast rate, oil prices are going up, cost of freight is so high, policy rate has been increased all the way to 19%. Interest rate is, so high. So definitely there is instability in the macroeconomic environment, and therefore every effort to bring it back and bring that stability is critical. We are not happy that we've gotten to this point, but I think we've gotten to a stage where we don't seem to have much choices. If you want to bring stability and you are borrowing at such a high interest cost, then it's very difficult to bring that stability that you need. And therefore, some injection from elsewhere may be necessary. Unfortunately, because we borrow so much, our interest cost is high, and we are virtually getting to the stage where borrowing is becoming difficult. So intervention from IMF then becomes necessary. So at this particular moment, I don't think that we have a choice. So AGR supports the idea of we going for IMF intervention and bringing stability into the system.
Whatever happens at the negotiating table for the 17th bailout program, Ghana's trading community is nervous about conditionalities that could disrupt public spending. Dr. Joseph Obin is president of GUTA.
The IMF is also a service under which the government can also have some respite. In that, when they apply the strict measures for us to be disciplined and all that, then of course a government will be exonerated. Then we think that that's a smart move from the government. Otherwise, if it would have adopted a homegrown solution by itself and all that, cutting down most of the social interventions that they themselves have brought, politically it will be probably not prudent for them. And so if IMF will come in and make sure that what we are insisting, that we ensure that there's discipline in our expenditure, make sure that we do not spend on frivolities and all that, and that they also put better money on the table. As we are speaking, I don't know what they are bringing to bear, and then the restrictions that they are adding up. And so we still will wait for details to emerge, and then we can still make contribution to whatever it is.
Some economists are not very optimistic about Ghana's prospects ahead of the IMF engagement. An associate professor at the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Charles Godfred Acker, describes the intervention as short-term, which will leave the country back in the same situation.
If they are now trying to go back to IMF for $2 billion US, I am saying that the central bank can finance about $1 trillion US. Okay. And depending on how it is spent, it should not cause us inflation. That can fix our roads, create the industries, employ the youth on the street. It should not be IMF be the solution. They will not give us anything that can change Ghana in 10 years.
Okay.
So I believe that our problem is the central bank, and the IMF is saying that the central bank is zero financing. Why should it be zero financing? What is the role of the central bank? The cedi is a public good. We don't go and get a cedi from China. The cedi is printed by government.
IMF officials begin negotiations with government to work out a package to support Ghana's economy. Government continues to be hard-pressed with options of easing economic hardships and stimulating public spending. I'm Charles Ayitey for Joy Business.
And today ended day one of negotiation between government negotiating team together with that of staff of the IMF. We shall continue to monitor closely engagements to give you up-to-date information in our subsequent bulletins. But that'll be it for Prime Business. We have Prime Sports coming next with Uriko Ampofo, but I'll leave you with international business summaries this day.